relocating or moving to another destination can present a lot of problems and opportunity at the same time. As I learned in today's podcast, and it's actually something that's very close to me because my wife and I are thinking about doing the same thing, moving out of the city can be a wonderful exercise, but there are a few differences between living in a city and living in a town that's not as big as a typical, city or suburb or whatever. The takeaway for me on this episode was the importance of networking and community when you do live in a small place. It's very easy when you live in a big city to basically never be able to speak to somebody again and it not really affect you. But when you live in a remote place, communities are quite small and everyone tends to know each other. So you need to make sure that you're doing the right thing by your customers all the time. It's very easy to take macro ideas from big business and apply them to our small businesses in terms of marketing and automation and all this kind of stuff. But what we learned in today's podcast is it's also important to take some of the things from a smaller business and apply them to your larger business. The way that you support your customers and the way that you look after your customers and the way that you treat them, so on and so forth. Like, these are all things that sometimes get a little bit lost when your business grows and you're in a big city because there's just an abundance of new leads coming in all the time. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. It was a lot of fun to record it. It is an A to B, so it's a bit of a story telling about a guy's experience of setting up in a remote area and some of the obstacles that he ran into and then some of the lessons that he's learned along the way. You'll certainly find it applicable to you if you're a tradesperson, and I hope you can really get something out of this. And if you want to join the conversation, please head across to the Facebook community where you can be part of that over there. So that's just search the site shed in the private groups and you'll be let in by the lovely Talia. And I look forward to seeing you in there, guys. Enjoy. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form and let's have a conversation.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Kristin, welcome to the Site Shed podcast.
Thanks, Matt.
Mate, so we're having a few technical issues here. As you know, I'm recording this for you viewers out there today off my iPad, which is a world first. So we're hoping everything pans out. My computer blew up yesterday, as it always does, just before you need to reuse it. So we're improvising. Anyway, I'm reaching out to you. You're down in Merimbula on the New South Wales South Coast, correct?
That's right, mate. Yeah, we're down here. Fairly small coastal town, but that's where we live and operate.
Beautiful. No, it's I've been through there. It's absolute paradise. And I was just saying to you offline, actually, my wife and I are pretty keen to move down the south coast. We just missed out on a place yesterday down not that way, not that far, but down there anyway with a little baby like yourself, and we want to get out of the rat race.
The south coast all round, I think it's a little nest egg in Australia that's really getting found out about. It was quite dead and quiet for a long time, but it's constantly just growing, constantly more people coming. So it's sort of in one sense, a little sort of bustling area south of Sydney at the moment.
I was looking actually on a map yesterday because my sister-in-law was saying she had a friend that was in Merimbula, and it's pretty much directly in between Sydney and Melbourne, isn't it?
Pretty well, smack bang in the middle, yeah. It's give or take 6 hours either way, and you'll hit a capital.
Yeah, I know we sort of do a lot of camping trips down Ulladulla way and along there, and it's just a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, mate, anyway, you reached out to me. You're you started a plumbing company down in Merimbula. You've got a bit of a background, I suppose, through working some of the people that I know quite well up here in Sydney. Decided to take the plunge and move back to paradise and run your own game, rule your own roost. How's it all panning out?
It's definitely been an interesting journey, Matt. It's like I mentioned to you previously before the recording that I was in Sydney for a fair few years, plunging away in the city mode, just turning up, banging it out.
Pardon the pun.
That's right. Working for a few different mobs, and we had a little baby and just thought, this isn't it here for us forever. So we thought this is the right time. We'll head back and find our feet down there. And I sort of headed down here, and I was starting out just thinking, well, what am I going to do for work? I'll grab a job with a plumber. And I thought, well, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to step back into that sort of realm of living where you're just showing up, going through your motions and not really enjoying it. So then I just thought, well, I'll get all my gear together and start up my own show. So I sort of, I guess fortunately, I worked for those guys who I did in Sydney, who had quite an influence on how I was going to undertake this project down here. And they were both very influential on my learning through my time with them. So to start this, it was sort of more or less grab that business model and put it down here in somewhat, because there was no one here really offering a service that was any sort of professional service. So and it sort of it took off really well, and it resonates with a lot of people now that's a go-to service. So it's been a success.
I'm keen to dive into it a little bit more, actually. I mean, I know there's a lot of conversations in the community around people that have or are thinking of relocating to different areas, and they're wondering how to drum up work and how to, I suppose, get moving, and just like yourself, I suppose, just eliminate some of those speed bumps that you may typically encounter when you're going down that path of relocation. And it seems like you've got a pretty good formula there, which has come as a result of, I suppose, educating and taking on board what you've learned working with some of these bigger companies. And I know you mentioned you worked with Greg at Kalara, who I know really well. So, there's definitely a lot of people out there that are doing it really well in the cities. It's interesting to hear. I've heard over the years a lot of people say, "Oh, yeah, that works great where in the cities, but it won't work where I am." That mentality.
Yeah, that mentality.
I'm sure you probably came across that a lot.
Yeah. I guess the main, not the hurdle, but the main realisation. I grew up in Merimbula, so I was sort of aware of it the whole time. But as anybody in the city can appreciate, like, you can wake up any day of the week in the city and be whoever you want, and there's complete autonomy, really. Like no one knows who you are if you don't want them to. But here, I know everyone, and everyone knows you, and you're basically as good as your last job in a small town. So if everything you do isn't transparent and everything you undertake isn't exactly what you say you're going to do, and you get anybody sort of offside, it'll be like wildfire through the town really quickly. So that's a big thing. But also, I think taking, like I said earlier, that this area is growing, and you're not only dealing now with your local people who have lived there for 40 years, 10 generations, and they use Joe Bloggs from around the corner, and they're going to use him forever. It's a growing, and it's becoming a lot more affluent. So if you can sort of transpose any sort of professionalism and bring that professional model to the area, people are yearning for that sort of thing to happen. They don't want to live in the dark ages anymore. They want to be a part of what's happening and what's happening in the cities. They want to sort of feel that motivation.
So let's talk a little bit about that professional model, because you're a plumber, and I'm guessing it's mainly residential maintenance sort of stuff, is it?
That's right, yeah.
And so when we're talking about the professional model, I mean, I'm familiar with it because I sort of came from that background, and I work with a lot of those bigger companies that really excel in that area here in Sydney. And a lot of our clients run off that business model here as well at the moment. However, a lot of listeners out there may be not familiar with, I suppose, what we consider the professional business model. So do you want to give us a bit of a run through, and this is a bit of a loaded question, but let's start with the journey, everything, the customer journey from, say, the point of finding out where you are or finding out who you are, whether that's online, right through to booking the job, showing up to the job, delivering a service, presenting price, signing off, getting paid, following up.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. So
I'll break it down for you. Let's go from the beginning, like a professional business in the sense of, okay, well, obviously it's quite a small town, but if somebody new just moved there and they need plumbing work, how would they find you?
Yeah, cool. So basically, there's a lot of work we've still got to do, but the basic things to run a professional business, you want to be online. You want to have an online presence and a strong presence, and that's, minimum Google, coming up Google number one in a small town's big, having decent and current Google reviews, having, your social media platforms current, live and active. So
I'm curious about that. So social media, when you say live and active, are you talking about having like a Facebook page for the business?
Yeah, so Facebook, Instagram, and a lot of businesses will have that, and they'll have 3 or 4 posts, and they've got it. So you want to have an active social encounters with your clients and with your friends on there, basically. So you want to be touching on that daily to keep that content.
So what does that look like?
How does that look?
Yeah. Are you posting like Instagram lives? Are you taking photos of projects? Are you like?
Yeah, so photos of projects, live videos, and I'm not doing all of this, but this is what you want to be doing. This is what we're looking at expanding on, because we know that this is working in the area. So yeah, live videos.
I'm curious. So with that, you're saying that it's working in the area. What are you gauging that off? Like how do you know it's working in the area?
How do we know? Good question. We don't have any, we don't have that as sort of stats, exactly. It's not statistically proven that, yes, that works. And I know you can do that, but yet it's not that. It's just every time a call comes in, I'll be asking them, where did you find us? How did you find us? And, 90%, and this is just pulling numbers, but 90% of calls that come in are found from our online presence, and they have investigated. Before they ring, they've investigated and had a look at, do we actually want this guy to come to our house or this business?
That's very interesting. And so when you say like 90% is coming through like the online presence, and this is a really big thing, we've noticed what you just said then is so true. And especially when you've got like we work with a lot of builders. we do websites and marketing solutions for trade businesses.
Yeah.
And we find that a lot of our builder clients have pretty much run entirely off word of mouth. Like they're booked out 12, 24 months in advance, and a lot of it's just through referral work. However, over the years, we've noticed a massive change in even the word of mouth work that they're getting. Somebody can give you a referral. I can say, hey, Kristin, go and speak to, Bob's building down the road. They're brilliant. They build our house. They're fantastic. And we know statistically now that before you ring Bob, you're going to jump online and do your own research.
Yeah.
So there's a little, I call it a digital ecosystem that's running there, where even now with word of mouth customers, they're still going to jump on their phone or jump online and do a bit of research before they call you.
That's right. Yeah, 100%. Definitely, people are checking it out, and they want to confirm that obviously you're the right point of call to solve the problem that they've got or the project that they're about to undertake.
What I'm not sold on, and why I was prying there with questions in relation to your, do you have stats or data around your Facebook and your Instagram, is I'm not sold yet on people jumping onto Facebook trying to find a plumber in Merimbula.
Okay.
We've done quite a bit of research in different areas with different types of business models, and we still find that if somebody's got a blocked drain, they're not going to Facebook, they're going to Google.
Yeah, interesting. And this is one point, I guess, I can only comment from our area, but is quite different from the city to the local area. In a small community, which is the key word, community, you have everyone knows everyone, and it's a tight-knit sort of community. So on Facebook here, there is all the local community groups.
Yeah.
And they put feeds out. So someone will post, they've got a broken block drain, broken toilet, whatever it is, but they say, they'll put out on their feed, hey guys, can anyone recommend a good plumber?
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Now
if your face is in the mix, or for one, you do good work, you've got at least a profile there, and you can be contacted from there. You go in the mix. So that's what I meant by that, and definitely in a small town, that is prevalent.
Yeah, now that does make a lot of sense, because even in the city, like on the northern beaches here, we get a lot of there's northern beaches tradie groups and all this kind of stuff where people have issues with whatever it might be. They're always asking for referrals. So I'd almost throw that in the basket of referral marketing. When people talk about Facebook and Instagram, I tend to think about, well, okay, it's brand recognition, and sure, it's good to post content to your Facebook page, but typically speaking, unless you're running ads on Facebook, the only people you're going to get viewing your page organically, annually, because of the algorithm that Facebook's created and refined over the years, you're going to get people like your family and your friends who like your page because they don't want to support you, but they don't really give a shit about your service. So that does make sense, being part of community groups. And again, I do kind of like to throw that into the networking side of things, which is one of the questions I actually want to ask you in relation to being in a small area and having an available network of referral-based leads, so obviously those Facebook, in relation to, in Sydney, there's BNI groups and things like that, which is basically like a networking event which you go and meet up at once a week, and you get to meet local businesses and so on and so forth. I don't know if you're familiar at all with those, but is there anything like that in the country towns? Any sort of like organised networking groups?
No, definitely not. It's sort of fend for yourself and do your own thing. But I guess on a lot smaller scale and more organically, you have, you've got all your markets and your bits and pieces like that, your more social events that, you can show a presence at. But again, it's just, I guess, more confirming the branding if you're there, rather than actually picking up leads as such. The answer is no, we don't really have those sort of events in this area anyway.
That's a really good point, though, because I feel like even in Sydney, I've got friends and colleagues that are quite proactive in doing things like sponsoring the surf lifesaving clubs and sporting teams and so on and so forth. And when you look at that from a dollar perspective as a marketer, I go, okay, well, you're spending $5,000 a year to sponsor the local surf club, and they give you a sign on the surf club. And I think that's just the worst investment. Like from a spend perspective, it's terrible. You put $5,000 in the Google ads, and you generate so much leads, so much work. But what you don't get from putting $5,000 in the Google ad is brand recognition, and you don't get that feel about the local guy supporting the community. Whereas when you are investing in that kind of thing, there is, and it's a hard thing to track, and it's a hard thing to measure, like from a dollar perspective, unless you've got some sort of unique code or some sort of unique identifier, tied to that. I'll call it a campaign from the marketer, but it's not really a campaign. It's just really branding. So I think it's hard for a lot of businesses to put a number on that. And I mean, I'm the first person to, to say if, there's no one size fits all when you're talking marketing and branding. Like if something's working for you, great. I mean, one of our clients is, the biggest plumbing company in Australia. They invest heavily into things that you would probably look at and go, why would you put money into running local paper ads? And, why would you do letterbox jobs and all this kind of stuff? But it works, so anyone who says that sort of stuff doesn't work, it does work. It just works differently for different people.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, the difference, I suppose, between, definitely here in the city, if somebody is looking for a plumber, they jump onto Google and they search for Google wherever they're, plumber their area. That's how they find people. No one uses the yellow pages anymore. No one really, look at the local paper. Like no one does that. And then in a country town, maybe it's different.
No, well, it's definitely still got that dogma and that sort of old school vibe and attitude with a small town. Like you still get, and that's what I mean. Like you're still getting 80% of the local, not just plumbing, local service businesses or building businesses they're still running the attitude. Yeah, we advertise. We're in the yellow pages. So you only really, which is really surprising, you only really have to do that tiny bit extra to be totally on top of the game at this point. You know, it is changing, but at this point, you only have to, you know, have a very small presence online, and you will get 90% of the calls.
I think, like, as much as you've taken from those successful big corporations and applied to, you know, the smaller town mentality, I think for a lot of the listeners and viewers out there, you could certainly take a lot of that small town mentality and apply it to a bigger scale business. And it's something that we try and encourage all of our clients to really get proactive in the space of, is telling their story better, and you doing that through content. And although I must admit, I'm not like the world's biggest advocate of taking that content and applying it first, you know, straight to Facebook and straight to Instagram and that kind of thing. Like I'm a firm believer that if you can create that content in a pattern which you own and you can basically control, which is typically on your website. So, you know, if you complete a nice project, put it on your website and then share it to Facebook. You know, that's a good way to get people back to your website, instead of creating content on Facebook and then trying to get people from your website to your Facebook page. And we know as soon as they do that, they're never coming back to your website because they're looking at, you know, videos of cats. So, but I mean, it's a big thing. Like we get this almost daily. Like people will come to us looking for, you know, more work and more leads and so on and so forth. And the first question that I typically ask them these days is, well, you know, how many leads are you getting? How many of them are you converting? Because very often you don't need more work. You just need to convert the ones that you're getting better.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's an interesting one. And I was speaking to Greg only last week on the phone about, you know, just having a chat how he's going, and I asked him, you know, how are you going and what are you doing for your existing customers to retain them, for one, and to keep them on board. And I'll step it back a little bit more, actually. When I was working for Greg, I'd come from Darren at Pipe Perfection, who Darren's, you know, he runs a fairly good business over there, and I learned a lot from him. That was my first sort of encounter and introduction to, you know, running fixed pricing and, you know, customer attention and just that whole sort of spectrum of business. That's where I first got my eyes open to that. When I went to Greg, he was still running your classic do and charge operation, you know, go there and just fix it and fix it as quick as you can and he'll charge them from the office sort of thing. And I sort of, you know, opened his eyes a little bit to that and just said, you know, you can do it another way, Greg. There's a better way to do things. And now he's really taken that on board. And that's one thing I really like about Greg, is he's quite adaptable, and he's keen to just get better and better and better. So he's been delving right into that. But going back to our conversation, I said to him, you know, what are you doing for customer attention? And he said, you know, we send out a newsletter and we do this and that and the other. And I just said to him, one thing I've found in a community area is you've got to stay in touch with your existing customers to keep them on board, and you've got to keep yourself at the top of their mind for when something happens or when they need your service. And I found that every couple of months, the best for me, and this isn't the best all round, but the best I've found that works for me is just to simply grab your phone, the old-fashioned phone, give them a ring and touch base with them, have a bit of a quick chat with them. But while we're on the phone, every time, and I've never had it fail yet, is ask them who their friends use as a plumber, and if they could pass me their details, I'd love to touch base with them. A simple phone call, and I can double my customer base.
Yeah, right.
Every customer will give you their friend's phone number.
Really?
if you've done well by them.
Yeah.
If you've done a good service and they're happy with what you've done, and you know, hey Joan, how you going? It's Kristin here, Keogh Plumbing. How's that new hot water tank settling in? Is there anything we can do to get it a bit better for you? Is the temperature right? Da-di-da-di-da. Yeah, it's great. It's going unreal. Cool. And it's just who's your next door neighbour? Who's your friend? We'd love to get on board and help more of the community. Can you give us one phone number? And we'll touch base them and see if we can help them out the same way we did with you.
Yeah, wow. And so what would that phone call look like to that next person? Because I imagine that sort of, to me, sort of goes into the cold calling sort of basket where, you know, you typically over the years have not had a huge amount of success with someone. It's like, yeah, well, if I want a plumber, I'll call you, mate.
Yeah, and sometimes you get that, but I've never had that yet in a small town because I started out just by, you know, g'day guys, I'm Kristin from Keogh Plumbing, and straight away I said, oh yeah, we've seen your trucks driving around because it's only a small town and we're quite visible. So I straight away resonate with what's going on, and I just simply ask them, you know, who are you currently using? You're happy with the service? We would love to come over and see if we can offer anything to you. We do whatever it is, a free audit report, a free maintenance inspection. We'll come past, check it out, give you a written report while we're there. You've got them. You know, you've got that person, you've got that household, if treated well, for life.
Yeah.
That's a life journey, that. So, you know, if you can do in a small town all the little things really well, that equals the one big thing.
I think it raises a really good point with, you know, like you just touched on it then, understanding lifetime value. And, you know, coming from a big city with a lot of clients in cities, and say, for example, and when this is a conversation we regularly have with plumbers and electricians around like lead generation, and they, you know, if you're looking at, say, Google Ads, for example, and you're trying to get, you know, win on search terms that are highly competitive, you know, in the big city, you know, things like block drains, Sydney, it might cost you $60, $70+ a click. And when you look at how many clicks you need to convert a sale, it may, let's say it's even 1 in 10 or whatever, which is not great, but you know, you're looking at $700 in clicks to get a $300 sale, which is a loss leader, you know.
Yeah.
But then when you're trying to consider lifetime value of the client, it may be a good investment, but it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes for people to go, well, you know, I'm paying $700 a click for a job, and the job's only worth $350. You know, they're not having that perspective on, I suppose, the long-term lifetime potential of that customer. So it's interesting.
If you're not in it for the long game, if you're not playing the long game, I think you're going to have, you're opening yourself up for failure. And if you're going in every time, you know, the first sale should be the only sale really that's not profitable to get you in and sort of take ownership of that property. But if you're missing the first sale because you've just come in hammer and tong way over the top, you've basically just written that person off. You've written just a lifetime valued customer right off because you've come in way over the top. But in saying that, you've got to sort of be on point because you want to build a customer base that is the right customer for your business. You don't want to build a whole customer base that only wants to spend $10. You want to build a customer base that's happy to put that new drain in because they can see the benefit in that, or upgrade a switchboard because that's better than just doing a quick, simple job. So if you can build out that form of customer base, I think you're going to have higher retention because you're going to be able to get in the door more, for one, because they're happy to get you back, and you're going to, open yourself up for success more than failure with a low lead customer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think as well, and definitely in a small, well, it doesn't have to be a small town, but in a community, even in the big cities, we all live in relatively small communities. well, it can be broken down into communities anyway, suburbs or areas, locations, whatever. You know, like live in Sydney, but the Northern Beaches is not that big, and then, you know, suburbs within the Northern Beaches is smaller yet. But being able to, I think if you do have a good experience with, say, a trade or service provider, and that experience is being documented proactively by the technician through like a case study or a project gallery or a testimonial or review or whatever, that is definitely, without a doubt, a big conversion factor that will affect jobs with people both in that community or perhaps people that know that person, because they can relate to them and they may have they've got a relationship already with that other person. So for them to see it, oh, okay, well, Kristin's using that builder, and, you know, I've known him for years and he knows his stuff, so
Yeah.
sure, I'd be willing to give him a crack. I mean, like, we do it all day, every day, and very often it's a subliminal thing that we do. But like, if people could only understand the power of having testimonials and reviews and case studies that people can relate to, like, it's the biggest conversion factor you can ever possibly have.
100%, definitely.
We love helping people create content that tells a story of a job for the purpose of when somebody comes along, a potential customer, whatever, and they can ask a question around, hey, have you ever done any, I don't know, hot water installations or instantaneous hot water installations or solar installations, you know, in this area? If you can provide proof in the space of a well-designed professional project gallery, that will sell the job for you 99% of the times.
100%.
It just does. It's so much more powerful than somebody jumping on Google and searching solar installation for Imbilla. Like, if they can see a project that's been completed and it's from somebody they know or someone they can relate to, lock it in, job done.
Yeah. And another tactic here that I've found really works with customers is this is through the follow-up process after the quote's been done, and you got to check with the wife, husband, partner, whatever's going on, but the follow-up. And this only happened yesterday, actually, when I was speaking to a guy, and this is part of my sort of process, that when I touch base with them for the first follow-up, I will always, during the phone call and the follow-up, ask them if it's okay if I can just send them a quick text message with an install of exactly what I've done. So if this instance, the guy wanted some gutter guard put on up in Tathra, where people are probably pretty familiar. We had some pretty bad fires up there a year ago or something, and he wanted a fire rated gutter guard. So I'd priced up a fire rated gutter guard, and he had done his own research and found a cheaper one, and he thought, well, I think I'd like the cheaper one. Can you put the cheaper one in? And I just simply said, do you mind if I send you a photo while we're on the phone? And I just, off my Instagram, screenshotted a photo, sent him through while I'm on the phone the completed job of a gutter guard that we've done and of the product that we would install for him. And the transformation between, I don't want this, I don't want you to do this job, to, oh God, that's, that looks pretty good. Oh, is your one ColourBond color coded, or is that how it's going to look? And you've straight away turned the conversation over. So that's been a very powerful thing I've found to do during a follow-up process is, go from sort of a call that's pretty cold, it's a cold call, there's sort of a lead that's, wanting to walk out the door, to, switching it into a bit of a warm call and bringing them back through the door just by a simple text message from a completed project portfolio, exactly like you're saying.
And I mean, that is the power of content. And, typically speaking, it won't even get that far before that recognition and that subconscious confirmation for the customer has taken place, because normally speaking, they're not on the phone with you. They're on your website, or they're Googling something, different options. Yeah. So having that content available to somebody that is not yet even a lead, like they're a prospect that you don't even know about. They're visiting the website, and they've seen that product and they've seen that installation, and they're like, actually, that's what I want. Let's call it now. And then the content's done half of the selling for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that. And I mean, I can't stress that enough for all the listeners and viewers out there. If you're not proactively, like it or not, it doesn't matter if you're a builder, you're a plumber, you're an electrician, you're a landscaper, or you're whatever. You are in the business of education today. People are coming to you for information, and they're coming to you to solve a problem. So if you can help them, I suppose, get an answer or confirm what might be the best solution for them before they've even come to you, before they've even picked up the phone or sent an email to you, that is a big selling point. And today we live in a world where if you're not doing that, you're only one click away from someone that is. So,
yeah. You're going to get left behind really quick.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
so gone are the days where people are going to, I mean, if you can help communicate that through content, on your website or your Instagram or your Facebook or whatever, brilliant, because that means it's one less step, one less hurdle for somebody to have to jump through before they can reach out and get that information. We live, and Google has your customer in mind when they're looking for services and they're looking for providers. They want to help your customer find the information, the answers they're looking for in the shortest period of time.
Yeah, as quick as possible.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if that means they don't have to pick up the phone and contact you while they're doing their research, then that's a win. That means, okay, well, we found the information we want, we found the product, we found the look, we found the style, we found X, Y, Z, whatever it is. We're happy with that. Now let's speak to them and see if they can apply that to our situation.
Yeah, 100%.
It doesn't have to be either a huge investment. Typically speaking, when we speak to our clients about doing this stuff, they think, oh man, I don't have the resource, I don't have the time, I don't have this, I don't have insert excuse here.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it even like what you were just saying then about the follow-up process, it's refining the process to accommodate that part of it. Make it a part of your process. I don't do follow-up phone calls. Well, okay, that's fine, but that's not the excuse. Now we can, processes and systems are always being refined and should always be improved. So just add that in the process. And yeah, maybe it will take more time, but the goal here is not about how much time it takes. The goal is about how it can improve your offering, your service, and increase your conversion. So I don't want to hear the conversation around it takes too much time. That's not the point. The point is you do this because down the track it's going to bring you more work and it's going to improve your process.
That's right.
So just shut up and do it.
Yeah. Key word you said there, Matt's time. People don't, I think, understand clearly enough that, you're not here for a long time and you're in business to buy your time back, basically. Offer a really good service, do what you do it really well, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you're in it to substitute money for time. So if you don't understand that as quick as you can and try and put systems or, put something in place that at some point you are going to buy your time back, because that's all we're in it for. Everyone, that's all anyone's doing this for. You speak to any business owner or in business, I want to have a day off and spend with my family or my kids, or I want to go and do this, but I can't. But you can. You've just got to understand that you're opting to substitute time for money, and you're opting to sit there and take the money and not streamline your business so that you can actually have a bit of time off and do what you're in it for.
Yeah. And the reality is that will never happen unless you invest in creating clearly defined, processes which can replace you from doing them. For example, if 100%. You're the guy that's doing the follow-up calls, that's fantastic.
I don't want to be doing it.
If you don't want to be doing it, the only way you're ever going to get someone else to do it is to show them how to do it.
That's
the
exactly
only way
right.
that really be showing them how to do it is of a clearly designed step-by-step process. First do this, then do that, then do this, then do this.
That's
and
right.
that doesn't have to be a destination. That can always be a journey of improvement.
Yeah,
but
exactly
unless
right.
they know where to start, then you're never going to remove yourself from making those calls unless somebody else can understand how to make the calls and what I need to be asking during them.
That's right, 100%.
And that correlates to everything that you do. It could be how you invoice a client. It could be how you answer the phone. It could be how your truck presents, how your uniform looks, how, like everything. Like you've got to really invest in, I suppose, blueprinting what that model looks like and what that step looks like so that people can follow it with consistency and continuality. They can say, okay, well, this is how Keogh Plumbing operates. This is how they do it. This is how we're going to do it.
Exactly. Definitely.
It's very refreshing to hear, I suppose, people out there implementing things that we talk so much about on the podcast. I feel like I've been talking to myself with a lot of this conversation. However, it is important, I think, for people out there to understand that, as much as you're operating in a smaller area, the principles which you've adopted are, in my opinion, relevant to businesses, macro and micro, from all over the place. And my experience is with a lot of the companies out there that do operate in cities, or they have like larger organizations, they typically tend to drop the ball when it comes to the smaller things. Whereas you speak to, organizations within smaller areas, their focus is more on the smaller things, and they may not be as
versed
on. They don't have such a large focus and direction towards, the macro things, which, marketing is marketing that, letterbox and Google Ads, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But then you go look at the conversion factors from these bigger organizations and the smaller organizations, and it's like chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
And we're sure, some of these bigger companies can't necessarily depend on that. I think there's a lot of lessons that can be taken from the smaller organizations in applying that to their business to improve their conversion. Because at the end of the day, when you take that macro business thinking of, running ads and spending money and all this kind of stuff in order to get leads, which is fine, we so often have to keep people in check and say, listen, it's not about how many leads you're getting. You're getting enough leads, you're just not converting them.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you're getting enough leads, but you're getting too many leads of the wrong type of customer or the wrong type of potential customer.
Yeah.
And, very often we'll be in situations with clients, and especially over at our, the training program, Tradie Mate Pro, one of the big things that we're able to help people recognize is you can effectively we effectively want to get less leads. You're getting too many leads at the moment, and it's taking up too much resource because they're the wrong type of customer. Like, we want to get less leads, but more of the right type,
Yeah, that's
interesting. It's a very interesting paradigm shift for people. Or even when you go down looking at, different revenue streams from your business and where the different revenues are coming from.
Yeah.
Sometimes the area that's generating the most turnover is the one that needs to be chopped because it's taking up 80% of your resource.
It's huge. It is the biggest turnover, but boil it down and it's no profits left in it. So shift it off, do the little things and do more of the little things.
Very common conversation, and it's a massive reality check for a lot of people. I mean, you look at companies that, like plumbing companies are a prime example. They may have a really strong residential maintenance arm, and yet they're going and doing these construction projects, new homes, whatever for builders, and it's sucking up so much of their resource, so much of their labour, and the profit margins are pathetic. But then so then you say, well, this is what we're going to get. We're going to get rid of this, and you can increase your profits by 60%. And it's like, what? It's an insane thing to consider for them, because it's like, we've just always done it. But that's often the reason why you shouldn't be doing it.
That's right, and that's it's common tradie dogma, like which, as a service provider in the trade game, and anyone listening would resonate with it, that a lot of people ask which builders do you work for, which contractors do you work for, and which sort of big developers do you work for as a sort of an ego representation. Yeah. You can wear a bigger badge of honour when a simple answer is we only work for the household, a domestic household. And as soon as you adopt that mentality as a service provider, you will wonder why you've been wasting your time for however long you've been in business prior to that. There is no comparison.
Yeah. And look, to be fair, it can go the other way as well. I mean, we work with companies whose bread and butter is more, this commercial work, so they chop away the residential stuff, which is fine. There's no, every business is different. We've worked with companies where they were basically maintenance entirely, and we realised that so much of their work and where their strong suit lies is with commercial maintenance. So they chopped residential maintenance out of the equation, and they were able to significantly increase their profits just because they were so good at commercial maintenance and working with, that type of client. So it's really about understanding, I suppose, where your strengths are.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The bones of that are, where's your strength in selling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And understanding, I suppose, where, from a delivery point of view and a resource point of view as well, like what's taking up most of your resource, and is that paying you according to the amount of time and effort and energy and so on and so forth that you're spending with that area of your business? Because if it isn't, then you need to have a serious think about getting rid of it.
Shifting it on.
Mate, this has been a great conversation. I'm loving to hear about the success of people setting up little businesses. I mean, how long have you been running now? 3 years, did you say?
Yeah, 3, coming up 4. So 3.5 to 4 years now. Yeah.
So what's your role in the business today, as opposed to when you started?
Today, so I guess there hasn't been an identified title as such, but my day-to-day role is to, be the face of the business and continue to be interactive with all my customers and the current leads we have, and sort of present myself as the business rather than, being in the trench digging the holes.
Yeah. And so when you started, obviously you were the one in the trench digging the holes, you were the face of the business, you were everything.
Yeah, you play every role as you
do
starting, but I think
like interestingly, like what you've probably done, whether you know it or not, over the years is, and this is a different conversation, but it's one that's very relevant. And, I present on this topic quite regularly about people understanding, within their business, everyone has departments, everyone has roles, and everyone has responsibilities. And when you start, you are across every department, you're doing every role and every responsibility. But as the business grows, being able to understand which roles and responsibilities you want to bring people in to take off your hands, that's what will help you grow. And it seems like over the years now, you've got a few different staff on board. You've got people in the office that are doing certain things. So you've been able to successfully remove yourself from these positions by bringing people in to do that for you, which does take time. There's no, you don't wave a magic wand and that sort of thing happens in business. Like, it does take time, it does take energy, it takes training, and I've never come across anyone that has the perfect formula for it.
No, definitely not. It's always a sort of
work in progress.
Yeah, it's like a living entity in itself that's fluctuating. You got to try and constantly be grabbing and shifting and moving. But it's been
I think fundamentally, though, for that to happen, you need to understand, first of all, numbers in the business. You've got to understand what your numbers look like, your dollars coming in, expenses, things like that, and then you can really justify the value of adding a huge I won't call it a liability, but when you're talking about expenses within an organisation, staff is by far the largest. Bringing somebody in, which might be costing you, 80, 100 grand a year, but how much more can that potentially make you, in hindsight?
Yeah.
So understanding the numbers around that is really interesting. That's something that I've learned a lot over the years. It's huge. You got to treat it more as an investment than an expense. But it will only be an investment if you invest in training and equipping those people the right way.
Yeah, that's right. If you're bringing somebody on to take on a role that you once had to do, back to what I was saying before, you've just effectively bought your time back. So if you've bought your time back and you can be proactive and cover something else off that needs to be done, or keep the needle moving forward, not backwards, then that's a positive outcome. Yeah.
And so I suppose in closing, respectful of your time, is there anything you'd like to leave as what's biggest lessons learned, or any bits of advice that you'd like to leave with the listeners and the viewers out there in relation to, I suppose, a bit of your journey and people that may be considering doing the same thing, getting out of the big smoke or moving to somewhere a little bit smaller, or starting their own businesses in general?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I'm fascinated with sort of not so much young, but tradies that are stepping in and doing their own thing and firing in, but also because I've been there, you're an employee of a trade company, but you don't really know how to make the plunge to do your own thing, and you're sort of stuck in that rut for a long time. But I mean, all I can say to that person or that listener out there that's wanting to do it but not quite sure where to go is you've got to have courage, and you've got to back yourself, and you've got to personally go that extra mile and know that you'll make it work, and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And it's going to be hard, and it's going to be good, but there's going to be ups and downs as you go. But if you personally won't quit, you're never going to fail.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There's no wrongs, just lessons.
That's right. Yeah. So if you're in that position and you're about to get going, or you're going and you want to go to the next level, I mean, just keep pushing and have some courage and keep going with it.
And I suppose, like, you're obviously quite learning podcast. Have you had coaches or things like that in the past?
Not really. I don't necessarily have a coach as such, but I'm actively learning, and that's things like even tuning into your podcast. Like, there's some amazing people that come on and you interview, and you can pick up so much information if you just open yourself up to it. Like, we're in the ages of where the internet is around. You just have to, if you need to know something, tune in and learn it. There's not really excuses not to know stuff anymore. If you don't know it, get somebody to help you. Like, people are out there to help you. But for me, it's just tuning in and listening to this sort of stuff and diving into YouTube and finding people that you resonate with, and study people. Work out if there's a successful person, how were they successful? What did they do? And why are they continually successful? Like, a successful person has sort of a set of rules that they run and they do, and
success leaves clues.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, there's no one person that I look to, but I'm just I'm an inquisitive person that's constantly curious and wanting to know more. So if you keep that open, I think you're going to pick stuff up, you're going to learn stuff, and you're on the right trajectory to continue your project, really.
I mean, there's so much information around. It's just, but the amount of wisdom from a book is just insane. I suppose reading books and listening to podcasts is great, but then sitting down and actually applying it, or figuring out how you can apply some of those principles that you've learned to your business and to your life and the way you operate and your mindset, so on and so forth. I mean, that's really where the magic lies. And
That's exactly right.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
You don't. I mean, people say I don't have a coach, but then you don't necessarily have to think of a coach as somebody who you're paying $1,000 a month to sit next to you and talk to you about things like I've been coached by some amazing authors over the years just through reading their books.
That's exactly right. Yeah. You just need to tap in, and you need to really tune into your own self and drive a life that you want to live, and if the life that you're not living at the moment, or if the life you're living at the moment isn't what you want, tune into this sort of stuff and change it. You're in complete control of your own destiny.
Exactly right. I love that. And people that and you hear all this stuff, the economy's taking a downturn and, this and that, people are stopping spending. And I just think you guys are just buying into the wrong shit, just if people only knew how much they were in control of their own destiny, and I mean, of course there's going to be ups and downs, but people just use it as an excuse, I think, sometimes for poor, like a poor run, really, because of this, or that there is so often your own fault, and you're in so much more control over these than you really realise.
Yeah, people want the easy. People are lazy, and they want the easy way out, but they also want complete success and joy along the way. But unfortunately, those two things don't go arm in arm. Like, they don't work in the same paradigm. So
yeah,
you've got to tap that and hone that before you move any further.
Love it. All right. Well, Kristin, where can people get you? You're in the Facebook community, yeah?
I am in the Facebook community. We're around that. And
if people want to get hold of you, where's the best way to do that?
Yeah, best way is jump on our website, keoghplumbing.com.au, and you can find everything's on there about us, or Instagram. We're fairly active on there, so you can throw us a message. But yeah, anyone that's out there that is starting a new business, or someone wanting to start a new business that does need a little bit of motivation or mindset shifting, jump on and get in touch, because I'm more than happy to help. It's a passion for me to help young tradies, or not so young tradies, but need a shift in their mindset. That's where you will. When your mindset changes, that's when you're going to see the needle change. So if anybody's out there and wants to do that, jump on and get in touch.
I just actually finished a fantastic book just before we close off called Atomic Habits. I encourage everyone to go and read that. But it's very much about that. It's about shifting your mindset and moving the needle in your own head, setting the right habits.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, mate. Well, I'll let you go. Thank you very much for your time. Best of luck with current, future success. I look forward to hearing your journey. And as you alluded to, if anyone's got any questions, you can reach out to them through the website there, or you can jump into our Facebook community where you'll be able to get in touch with Kristin there also. Thanks for your time, mate. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, Matt. It was great to touch base. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com, where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.